For decades, America's long-range bombers have been symbols of power and deterrence. But today, the skies look very different than they did when the B-2 Spirit first flew in the 1980s. Adversaries now field advanced air defenses, precision missiles, and no-go zones that stretch across oceans. The U.S. needed something entirely new, something that could slip past radar, fly farther than ever, and adapt to technologies not yet invented. The answer is the B-21 Raider. Unveiled in 2022 and already taking to the skies, it's being hailed as the world's first sixth-generation aircraft, smaller, stealthier, smarter, and built to remain relevant for decades. At first glance, the B-21 Raider resembles a smaller cousin of the B-2 Spirit. Both are all-wing stealth bombers with no tail and a smooth, radar-evading shape. But the similarities are only skin-deep. In fact, the B-21 is quite a bit smaller than the B-2. Estimates suggest roughly a 15% shorter wingspan and a payload of about 20,000 pounds, approximately half the B-2's payload. This reduction in size is very intentional. A more compact bomber presents an even smaller radar target to enemy sensors, making it harder to detect. Yet clever design means the Raider can carry plenty of fuel despite its smaller airframe, giving it extraordinary range for long missions. In fact, by sacrificing some bomb load and not shrinking the wings as drastically, the B-21 packs a lot of fuel for its size, potentially allowing it to fly farther without refueling than any bomber in service today. The stealth characteristics of the B-21 benefit not just from its shape, but from decades of materials science advances. Its engine air inlets, for example, are smoothly blended into the wing body and mounted flush with the surface, unlike the more conspicuous inlets on the B-2. This flush inlet design helps conceal the engine's fans, typically a hotspot for radar returns, and keeps the aircraft's cross-section low from more angles. The B-21's overall nose and fuselage have also been refined for stealth. It lacks the B-2's pronounced beak, giving it a sleeker silhouette that's harder to spot on radar. Even the cockpit windows are uniquely designed to eliminate seams and edges that could bounce radar waves. As a result of all these features, officials are confident even the most sophisticated air defense systems will struggle to detect a B-21 on approach. Perhaps more importantly for day-to-day operations, the B-21 is designed to be easier to maintain than past stealth aircraft. All stealth planes require special radar-absorbent coatings to stay virtually invisible to radar. Older coatings, like those on some F-22s and B-2s, were notoriously finicky. They could absorb a lot of radar energy, but they were delicate and often needed hours of touch-ups in climate-controlled hangars. Northrop Grumman and the Air Force have continuously improved these materials, and the B-21 uses a new generation of radar-absorbent material, RAM, that is likely more effective and more durable than prior coatings. In fact, the Raider is reportedly robust enough to be parked in normal hangars or even out on the flight line under a simple sun shelter, a stark contrast to the B-2 Spirit, which essentially lives inside an air-conditioned hangar to protect its skin. This means the B-21 should spend more time in the air and less time in maintenance, a critical advantage when only a limited number of bombers are available. While the B-21's smooth gray exterior screams stealth, its internal technologies are just as groundbreaking. Northrop Grumman has called the Raider the world's first sixth-generation aircraft. In military aviation, generations aren't just marketing. They indicate leaps in capability. The B-21 is meant to be far smarter and more adaptable than earlier bombers. Former Air Force Secretary Deborah Lee James described it as a fifth-generation global precision attack platform with networked sensors and shooter capabilities. In plain language, that suggests the B-21 will be highly connected, able to gather intelligence, share data with other forces, and even potentially control unmanned systems or coordinate strikes in a way older bombers never could. The B-21's developers also embraced digital engineering and open systems design from the start. Unlike older programs where physical prototypes and hand-drawn blueprints guided development, the RAIDER was largely designed and tested virtually in computer simulations before metal ever met machining. This modern approach helped speed up development and allowed engineers to identify issues early. Moreover, the aircraft's electronics and software are built in a modular way, much like a smartphone or a computer that can accept updates. Adding a new sensor or weapon to the B-21 should be much easier than on legacy jets because its systems are not tightly hardwired to specific hardware. This modularity means the RAIDER can evolve over its lifetime. As new technologies like advanced missiles, improved radars, or other payloads are invented, the B-21 can be updated with minimal fuss, a critical attribute for staying ahead of adversaries in the long run. Another advantage of the B-21's high-tech design process is potential cost savings and reliability. The Air Force has insisted on controlling costs after the B-2 Spirit program infamously produced only 21 bombers at a sky-high price each. By keeping the design smaller and simpler in some respects, and by leveraging those digital tools and lessons from past stealth projects, the B-21 team aimed to avoid the budget spirals of earlier programs. So far, the program appears to be meeting expectations. Multiple officials have praised its smooth development and testing process. Of course, affordable is relative. Each B-21 is still estimated to cost around $692 million in 2022 dollars to procure. But this is an inflation-adjusted figure. It's worth noting that initially the bomber was projected at approximately $550 million each in 2010-era dollars, and inflation and requirements growth have raised that estimate to the current figure. For what it's worth, the Air Force considers that price a good deal for a plane that packs so much capability. The service expects the RAIDER's value as a deterrent, preventing a war by existing, and as a war winner if conflict comes, will far outweigh its cost. The RAIDER is expected to gradually replace the Air Force's B-1 and B-2 bombers, which date to the 1980s and 1990s, by around 2040. It may even eventually replace the iconic B-52 in later decades. The B-21's range and payload will allow it to strike targets that today might require multiple fighter sorties or risk using older, non-stealthy bombers. Air Force leaders also emphasize that new thinking and innovation, such as digital engineering and better integration with other forces, are built into the B-21's DNA to meet modern threats. After years of secret development, the B-21 program is now squarely in the test and evaluation phase, with production gradually ramping up. By the time of the 2022 unveiling, the aircraft on stage was actually one of 6 B-21s already in various stages of assembly at Northrop Grumman's Palmdale facility. These first airframes are being used for testing, but they were built on the same production line and with the same processes that will be used for the operational jets. This approach allowed engineers to capture lessons early and smooth out the manufacturing process for later aircraft. As of early 2023, Company and Air Force officials confirmed that multiple RAIDERs were in ground testing and preparation for flight. On November 10, 2023, the program hit a major milestone when the first B-21 took to the sky for its maiden flight over the Mojave Desert. That initial flight from Plant 42 in Palmdale to Edwards Air Force Base lasted only a couple of hours, but it demonstrated that the new bomber could get airborne and handled safely. A huge relief for the team behind a highly classified project many years in the making. Since then, more B-21 test aircraft have joined the effort. By late 2024, at least 3 B-21s were involved in testing, one flying 1 or 2 sorties per week, and the others focused on ground tests and integration checks. Early flight tests are likely focusing on basic airworthiness, stealth characteristics, and avionics performance. Program leaders have indicated that so far, no major hiccups have emerged in testing, quite a contrast to some other high-profile aircraft programs. Of course, challenges could still arise as the Raider pushes deeper into its test plan, but each success bolsters confidence that the B-21 will arrive on time. On the production side, Northrop Grumman and the Air Force are already thinking ahead to scaling up output. A low-rate initial production contract was awarded in early 2024, signaling the Air Force's commitment to start buying B-21s beyond just test units. Northrop's CEO, Kathy Warden, has mentioned that the company made some changes to the manufacturing process to enable a higher production rate, even though those changes caused a financial loss in the short term. In essence, Northrop invested in efficiency up front, adjusting tooling, supplier arrangements, and workflows so that when the B-21 enters full-rate production, it can be built faster and in greater numbers. The Air Force has a minimum plan for 100 B-21 Raiders to be produced. That number was set early in the program, but there's growing talk that the service might ultimately need more. In March 2025, the head of U.S. Strategic Command argued that 145 Raiders would better suit the threat environment we expect in coming decades. While no official increase has been decided, it's clear the B-21 fleet could expand if resources allow and strategic needs demand it. Enthusiasm aside, when will the Raider actually join the Air Force's frontline squadrons? The Air Force has not announced a hard date for initial operational capability, the point when a first squadron is fully ready to deploy with a new bomber. Originally, planners hoped for the mid-2020s, but as development timelines evolved, projections point to around 2027 for the B-21's first units to be ready for real-world missions. This timeline is not set in stone. It could shift with testing outcomes or budget factors. But several more years, from 2022, was the language used by officials at the unveiling. In practical terms, 2026 or 2027 is when we can expect the Raider to start taking on alert duties and training for operational missions. Indeed, Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota has already been selected to host the first B-21 unit and the formal training squadron for the type. After Ellsworth, bases like Whiteman, Missouri, and Dyess, Texas, current homes of the B-2 and B-1, are slated to receive Raiders as well. And what do you think about this bomber? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn notifications on. And thanks for watching.